Hey, hi all. Welcome back to BRR Knowledge Center. In this today's session, we'll talk about event handler parameters and comparison between HTML and web controls. So far we have been discussed in ASP.NET, like the ease postback and auto postback in the earlier session. That was the latest earlier session. And after that, we are coming here to discuss these event handler parameters and comparison of client and server-side controls. So basically, ASP.NET provides an important feature called event handlers, where it will provide a provision for controls to do some actions. So when it comes to events for any control, which basically we are talking about ASP.NET, we can write two kind of events, like server side events and client side events. Let us take an example. If you have a button, ASP.NET button, you can write two kind of events for that ASP.NET button. One is on click, which is going to fire from the server side, and another one is on client click, which always fires from the client side using JavaScript. Okay, so when it comes to parameters, we talk about here, like ASP.NET event handlers basically having two arguments, right? One is an sender object, which is representing the object that raised the event. That means the control, which control is raising an event. That control object is coming in first parameter, and second parameter is an event argument, which is an event object containing event specific information. Okay, let me quickly get into the demonstration part and see like how it is working out with a simple example. We just add some button in ASP.NET Forms page and then writes an event handler for the button click event and see like how it is working. So as I said, ASP.NET Web Forms allows events on both client and server sides. Okay, so let me open my Visual Studio and see how it is. You know, demonstrate you. I'm going to add a new page to demonstrate this. uh, I can say this is a forum event handler. That's for the name. I'm just giving it here so that it will add a kind of a name, ASPIX page with the three variety of pages. One is ASPIX, ASPIX.cs, and designer.cs. Okay. So when you look at server side, this, where is that? Oh, sorry, this one. This is what our page, just closing the previous pages. So this is purely in a kind of layout, HTML layout. This is server side with page load by default. And now on this page, I'm going to put some controls within the form tag. Okay. So this is something I'm just keeping here. Let me try to remove this stuff so far. Okay, inside of my div, I just kept a table tag, right? This is my table, right? Let me do that. So seems body form tag duplicating, right? Let me remove that. So inside of this, I just declared a styles here. I don't want these styles, I think so. I think it is something confusing us. So head and then body and form within the div tag, I just kept a table here, right? Each table is having it four rows in this table, sorry, is one row and second row, right? And third row, and this is the fourth row. I totally have four rows. The first row I have kind of a first value is one column, and opposite to that, I'm just keeping one control called text box of ASP.NET, and the ID is first value. And similarly, in the second row, I'm just having second value label caption in the first column, and the control is another text box. In third row, we have a total control text box, and on the side of column we have some caption. And last row, I just keeping one column as an empty, and then another column is having some button. This is the ASP.NET button, right? This is something a function. I'm going to define it, right? Some. Okay. Now, so this is my table. I'm going to define it. So here I don't have this class now, so I'll just keep style of this is width is 100%, hence 100% I'm giving, right? And for even the other controls, basically having in TD, right? I'm giving 100 or 100 pixel size. Okay, right. This is something messy with that style refining. What is that? What is expecting? Right. So first row it is something. This is 3D, and second row again I'm having same style, and third row again I'm having the same because each control no label caption I'm keeping as 108 pixel width. That's why I'm just defining this style as 108 pixel for all left side this, so that you will have unique width here. This is 108 108 108 108. If I define something like 200, now see, design looks something 208, but I don't want that. Okay, so this is my design. So first value and text box, second value text box, sum and text box, and this is empty, this is sum button. So to go to this code behind, just press F7, you will get into this server side code behind stuff, or you just press shift F7 so that you will again go to the design part. Here you can split that. So design you can see here, and the ASP layout we can see here in markup language. Okay, or else, so you will just click on source, you will see the only HTML stuff. Now what I'm trying to do here is I'm going to write events, right? One thing is server side event, that is on click event. This is going to always fire from server side, some, right? So I'm going to server side here, right? I'll define my event protected by, right, sum of, here as I mentioned, two events by automatically constant. One is the object which the event is triggering, and another one is an event which is having complete details about your control. Okay, and here what I'm trying to do is I'll declare define integer a equal to convert dot to int, right, of 16 is enough for me. First value, right, this is first value dot text, and same way I'll read second value, right, this is second value, right. Once I read these two values, I'm defining some variable equal to a plus b, right. Once I define this, right, I'm assigning this some value to total control, total dot text equal to sum, so that this, what is happening, cannot implicitly convert. So we'll see that convert dot to string, this is going to convert to text value. That's fine. Now when I run this, right, you will have the beautiful UI. I think it is not going to run your latest page because we have to set that. Of course, I think right now you are on the same page. It is by default running. Otherwise, what you need to do is just right click on it and just set that as a startup page. Now you see that UI, beautiful UI. I'm giving 100 and 200. Clicking on sum, I'll get 300 because this event is firing. I written in the server side, code behind file.cs. As I mentioned, events are two types ASP.NET is providing, that is client and server side or both. Now what I'll do is I'll write same event at a client side. So here I'll define my event here like line step. Here I'm saying sum, right? Is same var here, like a equal to parse int of get element by id first value dot, this is value, right, and after that same way second value, which is storing in b variable, right. Once after that I'm defining sum or totals, right, it is a plus b. Now I'm assigning that value to a total control. This is total control value equal to, sum. Okay. Now how to fire this event? So what you need to do is you need to go down here. Instead of on click, what you will do is you just check on client click. We have two events, on click and on client click. On client click equal to sum. Okay, this function I have provided. Now run this and see same thing should come from a client side, right? I'm just getting same UI and just having it like 100 and 200 and just pressing on sum. Oops, let me debug it and see like what is causing problem. No, event is not firing on client click sum. Okay, let me close this, see what is happening. Just to build that application. Change succeeded, function and script closing, and in that I'm reading through. This is some function I'm having it. Let me do a total, and I'm calling this function on client click for the button, right? I'm just commenting this function because I don't want same function should be fired from both sides for now. And it should fire it, right? We have a function readily available. Script disables settings, line generated from line 16 character 10. Okay, what is that? Parse int document.getDetermined by id, blah 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 blah, right? And this is before body, and I'll try to run and see what is happening yet. It is fine now. Clicking on that. Oops, it is coming here. Let me see. Any exception is coming. It's having it. There's some right. Script closing is some. What is the problem inside of that? Event handler. Okay, I'm just pressing this. What's happening? This is the event I've been returned. On click. Is it a small case? Why it is coming as on click? We try to debug it and see. It is coming here. It is coming now. Oh, something is get element by ID. So it is causing problem. Let me see that. Let me try this. Okay, okay. Some it is coming now. First value, I think we missed the variable name first. Okay, got that. And go back here. Spelling mistake. Now let me refresh and reload it. Continue on that. So submit. Yeah, now it's fine. So thing is, I think we missed the variable name, properly not mention it here. It missed s, so it has a problem. So here, if you look at here, the client side event firing now. Earlier it fired from server side. So if I wanted to fire from both client and server, then how we will do that? Let me close this. I'll keep this as it is, and I'll give a server side event as well on click equal to, right. This time some server side, I'm just changing the name, right, some server side. I think we should do something differently. What we will do, we will keep that event here, right, and run through, right. Instead of doing this stuff, I think I'll just comment this. I'll put some right kind of colors here. Core color equal to you mean red, right? And total dot back color equal to green. Let me see that. Will these two events fire at a time? Client side and server side. I'm just running through and see how it is happening it. So I'm just first what will happen is it will come file from client side event and then goes to server like till 24. Sum is calculated. See the gap with difference when the event is firing and just refreshing it again. You'll see the difference here. So I'm just giving 22 and 12. When I click on sum, it is firing first here, firing value and then applying my color, right? So this is something about event handlers in ASP.NET where we can define these events, right, by default from server side and client side, right? And if you wanted to fire both from client and server side, you can fire. But only thing is you need to mention the name of event, different name. On click is something on client click. I think the same function can be given it here also, and there is no worry in that because that is looking at client side and other thing was looking at server side. So name can be unique or different or same. You can give any name, I think. So that's not a problem or big deal with that. Only thing is you need to use on click for server side, on client click for client side. Okay, with that, it is going to fire your events, right? So that's all about the event handlers in ASP.NET. Now coming to the comparison between the HTML controls and web controls. So far, what we done is we only concentrated on server side controls, but not at HTML controls. The main difference between HTML and web server control is that HTML used to create the structure of web page, while web server controls are used to add functionality to a web page. Right? HTML is a static language, while we put some markup stacks in the HTML page. When it comes to web server, these are dynamically generating it. Right? Server control events are handled in the server side, whereas HTML control events are handled in the client side browser. Let me put some points against each control for more understanding, right? So I'm just keeping something like HTML controls, right? Mm, and here it is server controls. That means ASP.NET controls. Okay, first difference is let me come here, right? First difference is HTML controls run at client side. HTML controls run at client side. So these are all controls getting rendered from the browser. It won't render or execute at server side. Okay, server side controls run at server side. Controls run at server side. Whatever controls you are defining, all those controls are executed and rendered from server side and then send it to browser. Next one is HTML controls. You can run HTML controls at server side by adding attribute run a tick server. So if you wanted to run, you can run HTML controls also at server side by adding attribute run it equal to server, so that you will have access at server side as well. Okay, so ASP.NET controls server side controls provide a state management. So basically, ASP controls requires a rendering, right? So basically, in it looks to HTML controls does not require rendering because these controls are HTML controls does not require rendering because these are rendering at client side. No need of rendering, right? I think first we'll list out this kind. So HTML controls run at client side. So generally, it is so faster. HTML controls render at client side, right? It is its execution is faster. Its execution is fast. Generally, because everything is in my browser. My browser doesn't depends on anything in server. It definitely fastly it will execute whatever actions you are binding to your controls. And coming to next one, HTML controls do not have any separate class for its controls. So HTML controls doesn't have a separate class, right? Separate class for rendering or kind of object for its controls. And next one is HTML controls does not support oops paradigm. HTML controls, right, does not support object oriented paradigm where it provides properties and methods. Okay. And next one is HTML controls cannot be accessed from code behind files by default, right? HTML controls cannot be accessed from code behind file, that is server side. And next one is HTML controls have a limited set of properties and methods. HTML controls have limited set of properties and methods. So simply, if we wanted to keep a tag for enter a name, so we just keep enter name so that it will display as is, and text box we need the HTML control will be declared as like this way. Text input is text id equal to txt name and close it. So this is how it is defining in the HTML. When it comes to ASP.NET, right? So ASP.NET controls are server-side controls. So it provides state management, right? So instead of rendering, having a run equal server, we have a state management there. And ASP.NET controls requiring render. So here ASP.NET controls requires rendering because these are server side controls. Okay. And coming to the faster, ASP.NET controls run on server side. Execution is a bit slower. ASP.NET controls at server side. Execution is slow. Okay. So I'm coming to the separate class. ASP.NET controls, have a separate class for its such control. Each control is having its own kind of class. ASP.NET controls having its own class so that you will access the properties and methods. And coming to the paradigm, ASP.NET controls will have a support of hook paradigm. That means object oriented concept. That's why we are going to access properties and property methods using dot period option period operator, right? Supports object oriented paradigm. Okay. And coming to the next one, ASP.NET controls have a rich set of properties. So here I think we can access directly, from code behind, right? ASP.NET controls directly access from code behind files. And coming to here, ASP.NET controls have rich set of properties. and methods. We'll see what are proper control properties and methods in ASP.NET. And if you want to define similar tag here, you need to say enter name here ASP colon text box, right? Here you need to have a same attribute, right? ID equal to text in name, right? Run it equal to server, right? And you have a close tag here. In HTML, it is not mandatory, and you can ignore that, right? This is something about main differences in this one, I think. ASP.NET controls or server side controls, right? Or server side controls. So it provides state management. So these are a couple of differences between HTML and ASP.NET controls. Only thing is, no, if you wanted to design a page with lightweight and wanted to put actions and events to be processed very faster and quicker manner, and we'll go for HTML controls. And if you wanted to process the information and the event action the server side, you have to go for ASP.NET controls. But completely, it's not kind of one set of controls you are going to use it. So both control sets you have to use it based on the requirement and context you are working on it. If it is a page which is purely coming on having an actions and functioning at a server client side, go for HTML controls. And if it is purely depends on the server side stuff and required to access all the controls from server side, go for ASP.NET controls. Okay, so I hope you understood the differences, and it all depends on the requirement and the context you are working to choose that. But it's not the case like only you go with HTML or ASP.NET. You go with the both controls, or you go with only HTML controls or ASP.NET controls. It's all about the requirement you are having it. Thanks for listening to this video, and please subscribe this channel for more videos. Thank you.